benefits, right? Like,
And we can sit on those for hours
Yep.
together,
yep.
cross-legged, and not move.
I can't even sit cross-legged on my bed for an hour.
रेडी है 3 2 1 सर साइलेंट पे फोन
हाँ, silent.
ठीक है 3 2 1 स्टार्ट
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Weekday Show. I'm your host for today, Raghav. I lead growth at Weekday, and today I'm joined by a very special guest. Our guest for today is the man who leads learning and talent development at Colt Technology Services. Prior to Colt, he has worked at companies like Aegis Limited, Genpact, and interestingly, he started his career at NII Sparta as a business development manager. That's something that I found super interesting. He switched from business development to HR, where he has now spent more than 20 years out of a 25-year career so far. So I'm super excited through the course of today's episode to get into all of this and more. But let me take a pause and welcome today's guest. Welcome, Vineet, to the show.
Thank you, Raghav. Thank you for having me here.
It's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for taking out the time. Just to set up today's show for you, we'll have 3 segments. We will start with a rapid fire. So this is supposed to be a fun segment where I ask you 5 or 6 quick questions and would love to get your take on them.
Sure.
We'll move on to the next segment, which is going to be another segment that's supposed to be fun. This one is called Hire or Pass.
Okay.
Here I'll give you some hypothetical interview scenarios, and I would love to know what you as a recruiter would do in those scenarios. And then finally, we'll close with a deep dive into your journey, where we would love to get into the specifics of all the experiences you've had, and we'd love to get some takeaways from that that our audience today can learn something from.
Sure.
Sounds good?
Absolutely good.
Are we good to start?
Yes.
Perfect. So we'll start with the rapid fire?
Yeah.
Great. Vineet, starting with the first question of the rapid fire today, what is one moment that you can recall from an interview you took where your impression of the candidate completely changed in that one moment?
One of the questions that I asked a candidate was about a very cliched question though, about their strengths and weaknesses.
Okay.
The person actually stopped and very, very candidly first spoke about their weaknesses and explained why those weaknesses hail in that person and what has been the impact, why they call it as a weakness. Through this course of conversation and several other questions that came through, I realized that it was an absolutely authentic answer. And there are very few people that you will find have that level of clarity to what they're good at and what they're not good at. And that really changed the moment for me in that interview.
Got it. So what you liked in the answer was the authenticity?
Yes, the authenticity, the truth, and the clarity
Got
of
it.
why they consider that either as their strength or their weakness.
Got it. And is generally that what recruiters are looking at when they ask that question?
I think everyone's looking for authenticity.
Okay.
Sometimes it's a belief that the candidate will be truthful in whatever they say. But sometimes our questions doesn't necessarily lead to those answers.
Correct.
So hence it's a play and hence a very conscious judgment. I'm skeptical using the term judgment, but at the end of an interview, you are judging an individual's capability and fitment to a job. So I think that's the balance. They're looking for authenticity.
Got it.
And they're looking for genuine answers.
So it's almost never specific strengths or specific weaknesses that they're looking for?
Never.
Perfect. Thank you. Great answer. And I think this is, like you said, a cliched question that a lot of people get asked. So I think people can learn from this how to answer this particular question. We'll move to the next question in the rapid fire. Vineet, since you've spent so many years in L&D, I think you're very well placed to answer this question. What's a common trait, Vineet, that you've seen amongst exceptional learners? And how can job seekers both develop as well as demonstrate this trait during the interview process?
It's a very interesting question. Learnability is a parameter most companies or job descriptions will have. Right? And hence, as a part of recruitment process, people definitely have questions around people's learning abilities. what in my experience tells me is that a lot of times we've heard answers where people have spoken about their courses, their professional qualifications as a part of their learning journey, which is not wrong. But what I look for is a more continuous and holistic learning philosophy, which means you don't necessarily only learn from professional courses. Learning is something that you do daily, in and out of every situation. So the base or a foundation of learnability is curiosity. So rather than looking at learnability, if we get enough answers on curiosity and willingness to accept newness into everything, makes a very, very strong base for anything that they intend to do, especially in today's world where we are talking about transferable skills.
Yep.
Yeah, we're not restricted to say that these are the only skills that you possess and hence you can only do this job. It's extremely important that we focus on the element of curiosity, which then helps learnability to become practical for people.
Got it. I think that's very well articulated actually. So curiosity is the common trait amongst exceptional learners. The second part of the question, I'm assuming how to demonstrate it is fairly obvious. Ask questions, ask good questions. How do you actually develop curiosity?
Again, a very interesting question. I think curiosity is a natural instinct
Okay.
that we have suppressed.
Okay.
Why that has been suppressed largely in the current generation or even the previous generation is that we have overexposure to gadgets.
Okay.
If you would notice from a very simple human aspect, anything that you work more effectively on, even as a muscle in gym, will get better.
Yep.
Right? If you really need to develop your arms, biceps, you would work a certain type of exercises to do that, right? Similarly, if you look at all our five senses, the most used sense organ today is your visual piece. With that, and a continuous use of this digital consumption has made us numb,
Okay.
made several other senses absolutely numb, that we don't even notice and observe. But if you look around, even a blade of grass is interesting enough
Yep.
and can generate enough curiosity. The way an ant is engineered, if you look closely,
Yep.
you would realize that the way it is able to walk, the way it is able to do several things, is phenomenally different than anybody else. If you just look around the nature, if you just look at the sky or everything around you, there is enough curiosity of why this is built in this way. So there is a natural instinct to curiosity which has been subsided or numbed by this over digital exposure only on one sensory organ. If we are able to make a shift there, then probably other organs will come back to it. In a practical situation, if you can avoid that, that's great. But curiosity also stems from your purpose.
Okay.
What is the purpose that you're looking for in life? And that would probably determine how curious you stay to reach to that purpose or to the goal that you want to.
Yep.
And I think that could be a very good takeaway for learners to constantly dwell on their purpose and write down if they don't have one. Because a lot of people I ask
Yep.
have not really written down
Yep.
a purpose for their life.
Yep. Okay. I think that's another very well articulated answer. I think another thing that you can probably look at and sort of get validation for that answer from is the fact that kids are naturally curious, but by the time they grow up, they may not be, right? So it is definitely something that gets suppressed over time. And your tip for today's audience is just be conscious of not suppressing it. Give yourself, stop doom scrolling maybe, and give yourself the time and space to explore the world around you, and that should sort of give birth to curiosity, as well as write down a personal purpose statement or a mission statement for yourself. Is that the correct summary?
Yeah, that's a very good summary. it's interesting when I'm in very large forums and significantly experienced people, and I ask this question to a lot of people to say, how many of you sitting in this room have a life insurance policy?
Yep.
And pretty much 100% hands go up. Yeah? My next question is, how many of you have a written down, structured life mission statement?
Yep.
And hardly any hands go up. So my answer to this group, to the group then is that I think we are better prepared to die than to live.
Okay.
We exactly know what will happen when we are not there,
Yep.
but we don't know how would we live this one very precious, useful life. Hence the importance of writing down your purpose and sticking to it.
Very interesting. So, anybody listening to today's podcast, before your next interview or just in general, as soon as you can spare the time, take the time to write something down for what you want to achieve, what quest you are on, and then that should feed into your next interview success in a very tangible and shallow way, if I can put it that way. Excellent. Next question, Vineet. Making the switch more directly to L&D, what is a key L&D initiative that you've seen tie in well to great TA outcomes, great talent acquisition outcomes? And just in general, could you talk about the intersection of talent acquisition as well as L&D in an organization?
So how I see this is that both these groups at certain stage need to work absolutely hand in hand. One of the key initiatives that can significantly change the way we hire is people to understand deeper skills of inclusion.
Okay.
Because if we do not understand at the recruitment stage the concept of inclusion, then we may be subconsciously or unconsciously judging, rejecting, or even demeaning people at their very, very start of an interview process. So, as an organization, we've dealt with this topic extremely seriously.
Okay.
We have a very structured, inclusive hiring program, specifically focused on our recruitment teams and on our hiring managers. Because as they bring in fresh talent into the organization, it's extremely critical for them to have the lens of inclusivity in how they hire. And that's an important intersection between L&D and hiring. And we've enabled through the process a lot of our hiring managers to remove their biases, or if not completely remove, at least be fully aware of several of their biases and consciously try to overcome them or challenge their own decisions very regularly to make the direct inflow in the organization effective.
Okay. Quick follow-up, if I may. I think I personally and most of us would have a fair understanding of what it means to look at TA through the lens of inclusion. What exactly does it mean to look at L&D through the lens of inclusion?
So L&D is like an engine supporting to look at what behaviors fall as inclusive behaviors and what behaviors fall outside the remit of inclusive behaviors. And hence our ability to help train and develop that muscle in people on inclusivity is an important part that L&D plays for any organization. Very recently, I've spent a full day with the leadership team of our organization dealing with the subject of inclusion. A very open, receptive group of people who would have probably worn the inclusive behaviors in many ways in their demeanor all the time, still had several definitions to be clarified, still had a lot of concepts to be learned more effectively. And I think that's a critical part L&D will continue to play with helping individuals get better with understanding of inclusive behaviors and finding ways to demonstrate that in their daily lives in everything that we do.
Got it. Makes sense. Vineet, we'll move to the next question. Let's say a candidate early on in an interview process asks a lot about L&D and growth opportunities. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I would love a candidate like that.
Okay.
We don't see many.
Okay.
But I think it's an excellent thing because what we just spoke about as curiosity as an element,
Yep.
somebody with an element of curiosity will probably ask these questions.
Okay.
Because what they would probably want in their own career is that they must develop themselves continuously
Yep.
in order to produce results for the organization. And I think that's a very important trait.
Okay.
You're going to enter into an organization, serve that organization, and in the process also live your dream career. It's extremely important to know how well the organization is equally committed to develop you on that journey and nurture you to harness your true potential. And hence, I think this is a very, very vital thing. And if candidates ask about L&D during an interview process, I think it'll make our job simpler because right now we have the other problem of people in the organization. How do we bring them into learning rooms?
Okay.
A constant battle where a lot of organizations are struggling with is to how do we really, really enable attendance? While there's so much to offer by organizations, there are very less takers.
Okay. I have to double click on that and I have to follow up.
Yeah.
Is there ever a moment where it kind of plays against you, where you come across as perhaps being somebody who's not going to be stable in the role that they're interviewing for?
If you may, rephrase the question for me to get it.
Sure, I'll do that. You said it's a good thing for candidates to ask about L&D early on during the interview.
Yeah.
As the recruiter who's taking the interview, I'm trying to fill a very specific role. When somebody is constantly asking me what is next after this role, even before they've actually landed the role, does that play against them in terms of not being sure as the recruiter whether this candidate is going to stick around and perform in the role that they're being hired for?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Especially where the times that we are in today. At some point in time, people used to talk about careers which were long, long years. And today, the definition of careers have shifted quite a lot. So it's not necessarily the time you spent with an organization. It is the depth of the work and the role that you do matters to people now. With that being the more fundamental reality of today, there's this very famous joke that you may have already heard that the CFO asks the CEO of the organization, what if we invest in these people in learning and they leave?
Yep.
And the CEO responds to say, what if we don't and they stay?
Yep. Yep.
So learning and the need to development never goes waste, neither for the organization investing in people, nor for the individual investing in themselves. So I don't think it's a concern. It's in fact only helping people get clarity. And if we are able to offer clarity, offer development to people, it's going to be very easy for them to stick around.
Yep. Very well answered again. Very well answered. I did find one thing interesting, which is that you said it's not necessarily about the tenure or the time that you spend at a given organization. I found that interesting coming from you, who has at every organization spent a bunch of time, but we'll get more into that later on. For now, we'll move to the next question. You touched on this in an earlier answer, but this question basically is, how do you demonstrate coachability during an interview? And also, if you can sort of compare coachability versus ability itself, and how far coachability can take you versus how far ability can take you.
Okay. So let's deal with the second part of the question first. So it kind of brings coaching or coachability as a very key aspect. So all of us possess a certain abilities, right? And they may be either necessary or not so necessary in every job that we do, right? When we refer to coachability, we look at some of the abilities that are not necessarily refined or developed, but they may be important and critical for the job that you're fitting yourself for. And hence, if we are able to coach on those abilities, you could probably progress more effectively into those roles. And that's the fundamental flow from ability to coachability. Now, is coachability an important
Yep.
aspect of who we are, and how do you gauge coachability through the process? In the world of transferable skills, as we spoke about, I think it only opens more doors for us to make shifts into more interesting, deeper, and meaningful transitions inside or outside the organization, even with different roles. The way I look for coachability in people during interview processes, if they're willing to explore another point of view,
Okay.
if they're willing to temporarily suspend their own judgment and be totally willing to listen to another perspective, that very well defines for me that there is coachability because this person is a keen listener. And that is not a very easy trait to find.
I think very interesting there is from a candidate's point of view. During an interview process, you're also trying to come across as opinionated and sort of an independent thinker. And the ability to balance the two,
Yeah.
which is, hey, I have some independent thought, but I'm also willing to listen to what you have to say. Any tips for candidates to sort of maybe some cheat codes or thumb rules that candidates can try to follow?
I would say that there's nothing wrong in having an opinion. It's absolutely wise to have an opinion. But during an interview process, if you initially are willing to listen to the other perspective, other side of the perspective, that only puts you to an advantage that you heard a perspective. And now if you have an opinion, you can still gracefully place your opinion in the conversation,
Okay.
which at least ensures that you've given it a due listening
Okay.
and you've not just stuck to your opinion. It may happen is that when you're processing what you heard, either it'll probably change your opinion,
Yep.
or it'll have you stick to the opinion, or you may arrive at a third alternative, which is probably a higher alternative than your opinion or the opinion that you heard. And then you would be in a position to share that third alternative to people, which combines
Yep.
the merits of both the opinions. In that way, you haven't even defended somebody or offended somebody, and you've also been able to place your
Yep.
point extremely well.
I think some of this ties together very well, so I have to summarize for the audience. Generally speaking, in an interview, ask a lot of questions. Ask them first, give yourself the chance to listen. And through that listening, if you have an opinion or a disagreement or anything of that sort, gracefully place it on the table. This allows you to both come across as curious, coachable, as well as opinionated. Am I right in saying that?
Absolutely.
Perfect. We'll move to a couple more rapid fire questions. These ones are on a lighter note, so should be fun. The next one, Vineet, is what's your favorite interview question to ask, and what is a good way that candidates tend to answer it?
I very often ask this question, that what's your purpose in life?
Okay.
And I get a variety of responses. I'm not judging any of the responses, but it helps me go deeper in a connection with the person. And that connection helps me engage them even better. And it helps them feel more comfortable in the conversation and tend to open up more, because often candidates get to see that if we're talking on a purpose, then it could bring in common grounds of discussions, similarities that may open up for us to build a rapport quite early in the conversation than actually struggling
Got
to
it.
just respond to questions. So I really love this question of purpose, and if needed sometimes, and if people have the willingness, I even clarify the role of purpose and how it can benefit them, whether they go through this interview process and get selected or they don't. And that also gives me an opportunity to find a way to help them.
Got it. And what, I know you said you don't judge a lot of these answers, but still, for people who are listening who've never actually thought about how to answer this before, what's a good way to try to think about answering this, and what are commonly seen bad ways of answering this question?
So, bad ways to answer this question is that you haven't thought about it ever,
Okay.
and you're doing it for the first time just for the sake of an interview, and hence you may say whatever is in your head, which does not necessarily comes out authentic or comes out real, and it may sound like a very scripted way of answer. The other bad way is that a lot of people I see prepare answers as scripted answers, not their own answers, but scripted answers which has probably been told to them that it will make you look good in an interview. Those, to my mind, are bad ways of managing it. What are the good ways of managing it? Good ways of managing is to really reflect on this, irrespective of an interview or no. And as we said earlier, write it down.
Okay.
Write down your own purpose. Write down why you wish to get into this job. See, for me, it's very simple. If you do a job that you don't like, and it's a hard job, it'll lead to stress. But if you do a hard job, I mean, if you really, really work hard on that, and you work on something that you love, that is what is called as passion. So, to be able to understand what is stress and what is passion, it's very important that we clarify that purpose. So, it's important that we write it down. Important that we be genuine and authentic. And say it out loud. Do not hesitate.
Excellent. Vineet, I don't actually have this question prepared, but I'm going to close the rapid fire with one last question. And I think that will also help candidates understand what is a good way of answering this question. Vineet, what is your purpose?
I'm very clear on my purpose. My purpose is to not just live for myself, but to enable others, to help them, transform them, and lead a better life for themselves. And in whichever way I can support this particular cause is how I drive everything around me in my life, whether it is my role in my organization or it is my purpose outside of my organization in my personal life. That is a very, very clear purpose. This is what I wake up for every morning. And this is what I sleep thinking about when I sleep at the night.
Okay, excellent. Perfect. Thank you for sharing that. And now our audience knows what a good answer looks like. So thank you. We'll wrap the rapid fire here and we'll move to the next segment.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Vineet, the next segment, as you know, is hire or pass. Like I described in the introduction, it's a segment where we give you hypothetical interview scenarios and we ask for your take. So we'll start with the first scenario. Are we good to go?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So the first scenario is the scholar. This is a candidate who has excellent pedigree when it comes to academics and education, but perhaps they lack some of the relevant practical experience that may be required for any given job. As a recruiter, in this situation, do you hire or pass?
If it's a fresh candidate, I take them in. Because they haven't, who will give them the platform to experience? To put it on practical terms, someone has to be willing to accept them with their abilities that they bring in. And once they come in, we could look for coachabilities and develop them further. But if it's a fresher with no hands-on experience and a great academics, I'll be very willing to take them on.
And how about somebody who's not a fresher, maybe somebody who's done a master's, done a PhD, done a bunch of years, spent a bunch of years doing research, and then is applying for a role which is not necessarily an entry-level role? How are those candidates looked upon?
It's slightly challenging then, because you got to then really go deeper into the conversation with people to really understand how have in their abilities outside of work environments practically implemented that. There is nothing as a skill that you've learned cannot be implemented outside of the corporate environments. So if you do not have an experience base within an organization, you would have enough in your life. So I would choose to operate on questions which help me understand their application of those concepts outside of the work environment. And if they have answers there, it's absolutely valid for them to come in.
Got it. That's a good answer. So even in the case of somebody who's done extensive education, you're looking for something beyond just theoretical knowledge.
Yes.
Some place where they've actually applied it
Applied.
For any reason whatsoever.
Yeah.
Okay, great. We'll move to the next scenario. This one is the test taker. So this is a candidate who's done exceedingly well during the technical interviews, but they've done equally badly or perhaps not so well during the behavioral interviews. It's very clear to you though as the recruiter that they have the skills and the knowledge for the job itself. What they lack perhaps are some of the interpersonal skills. Is it a hire or a pass?
What interpersonal skills will be an important thing to know, because interpersonal skills can be taught. Unless those are value driven challenges, interpersonal skills are absolutely
Okay.
coachable or learnable. So I don't think we will reject anybody on lack of interpersonal skills, unless the role definition is heavily reliant around interpersonal skills.
Okay.
But if the role requirement is largely a technical demonstration of from a day-to-day activity with a few interpersonal skills needed to be through this journey, then we could check what those interpersonal skills are and still get the person in and coach the person on those areas. Unless it's a value-driven challenge, which is where I will absolutely be a no to.
Okay. Does that mean that for technical roles, behavioral interviews are not as important as they are for non-technical roles?
They're equally important for all roles.
Okay.
The gravity of those will differ, and the specific interpersonal skills will be very different to check for that you need in those roles. But but they're equally important for both sides of the all the roles that are possibly there.
Got it. And generally speaking, somebody who's done well in technical interviews but not so well in behavioral interviews, that's you're going to lean towards not a hire, right? You're going to lean towards passing, if I understand correctly.
We would hire them.
Okay.
We would hire them. In fact, if you look at many tech organizations, this is one of their common, learning gap that they talk about in the organization, saying we have excellent technical people, but they don't necessarily know the other interpersonal side of things. Are they doing a very good job in their work? Yes. Then the onus is on the organization and on the individual equally to be willing to learn the interpersonal skills, and the organizations to be willing to invest in those to develop those skills. So I don't think it's a
It's not a pass.
It's not a pass. I mean, you could obviously bring them in
It's hire with an intent to train.
with the intent to train.
Excellent. We'll move to the next scenario. So this one is the late bloomer. This is a candidate who had a not so promising start to their career. They didn't go to a great school perhaps, didn't have a great first few stints in their professional journey. But lately you're seeing an uptick in their career trajectory. Is that a hire or is that a pass?
I think it's a hire,
Okay.
not a pass.
Okay.
Everyone can do things that don't work for them. And I don't think, as long as they are willing to display the right behaviors and they're willing to learn from the lessons that they have had in the past. See, failures teach you a lot more than successes. So I think somebody who's had, challenges through the career would have probably learned a lot more than somebody who's had a very easy, flourishing career. So I wouldn't let the person go as long as there is a recent demonstration of learnability. There's a recent demonstration of putting things into action and applying the lessons learned. The person should be able to go through. Unless you see another, situation where it's a misfit or not aligned to what you're doing. But at the recruitment stage, I don't think it'll be a reject.
Got it. I have two follow-ups. I'll ask them one at a time. So the first one is, I found something you said interesting, which is that failures can be a strength. Do you have any tips for somebody who doesn't have some of these amazing brands on their resume? And I think this would be most people, right? There's only a finite number of people that can go to an IIT Bombay or an IIT Kanpur. The rest of us are at best in middling colleges. So how do we, when we're approaching an interview, actually pass that off as a strength when competing against somebody from an IIT Kanpur?
See, you've answered part of the question already in your question.
Okay.
That many of these institutions will only have a certain number of seats. When you look at results today, you would see that there is an excessively high sense of competition. You know, somebody in the 99.3 percentile
Yep.
may not get what a 99.4 percentile person gets, right? In that state of market, where intelligence is measured in terms of percentile, I would say that it is a statistical variation. You can't really measure intelligence. I can very safely put my bet on somebody who's a 90 percentile would have equal intelligence as a 99.3
Okay.
percentile. So it's not an intelligence game, and hence I don't see this as a challenge or a weakness or something that you've missed out in your life. If you are willing to thrive, if you are willing to create a path for yourself, and you do what is then needed to create that path, you would not face an issue. A lot of times, social and societal pressures have made people first to believe that because they are not from a top tier institution, they are less than somebody else. I sit here with no top institution's degree in my career. I've never failed a conversation.
Yep.
So it's not like that.
Okay.
It's how you develop yourself and how deeply you're interested to bring a career trajectory that you define for yourself. And if you have the confidence in you, you would never present it as a challenge or a weakness in an interview. And hence, I think it's important that you talk about what you have achieved and what you can achieve through your abilities, which will overcast the institutions and the names that you come with. By this, I'm not demeaning any great institute.
Of course, yeah.
They did do an excellent job of making people ready. But I'm also saying that other institutes also don't do a lesser job in making people ready. It's the people, it's the person, or where you want to be. We all know that there are enough and more statistics around top tier institutes graduates who have possibly not done very well. So that doesn't guarantee anything.
Got it.
That only gives you a platform.
Got it. Now to my second follow-up, which I mentioned I had, was the inverse of this scenario. So instead of the late bloomer, let's call this candidate the early bird. So somebody who had a great start to their career, but you're seeing that the last few stints, maybe the last 3 out of 10 years of experience that they have, maybe the last 3 years have been at stints which are not as impressive as they might have been otherwise been. Higher or pass?
I would deep dive into what's the obstacle been in the last few years.
Okay.
Because a lot of people go through transitions. A lot of people go through situations in life which sometimes hamper their performance at work. You know, this whole concept of work life and personal life has only been very recent in the years. I mean, life is life. There is just one life, right? Nobody will be able to say this, that your work life does not impact your personal life or your personal life does not impact your work life. And hence in this life, sometimes there are situations that don't necessarily help you do your best.
Yep.
So I would be interested to know what are the blockages. If those blockages are concerns or situations that have led to a situation, and there is a visibility of those situations being overcome quickly, then it's a higher.
Okay.
But if there are situations that one can clearly see may not permit getting out of it, then possibly with a little bit of advice or a coaching, it could be a fail.
Got it. So I think sort of an important prerequisite for any of this is just the awareness on the candidate side in terms of where they are in that trajectory and what are all the factors that are coming into play and impacting that.
Another interesting concept, I don't know if you've heard about this concept or not. It's the concept of sigmoid curve.
Yes. Yep.
So the S curve, typically when you start a new role, a new organization, there is a dip in the curve, right? Because you're learning in that phase. It reaches a certain low plateau and it starts to rise because now you've learned what you're supposed to do and you start to get better. Slowly you start going upwards in the trend. You reach a plateau once again at some stage, and from that plateau it starts to dip. A lot of people realize that they need a change in their role or a career when it's at the time of dipping. Now, when it's dipping, your morale is low.
Yep.
Your own self-confidence is at a lower sense. Your energy and passion to do something else is also at a low. If you're lucky to get a new start there, remember it's a new sigmoid curve.
Yep.
So initially it'll have a further dip down the line. So now if you combine the both dip period, it's a very long period.
Yep.
It's a long period of frustration. It's a long period of going through challenging times. I'd rather advise that you find that sweet spot when you're on the high on the previous curve before you reach a plateau to start a new curve then. If you start a new curve then, you're already on a high.
Yep.
You have the motivation and the energy. Even if that dip comes in, you'll be able to pick that dip up very quickly and start a very growth-oriented new S curve. So that's my key advice to people, to be conscious of the point, that sweet spot, when to start new. When I say new, it doesn't mean you have to change your job. I mean, I've had, even in my current stint with my current organization, I've had probably 3 or 4 S curves. And each curve has really helped me do something different and something better.
I think that's an excellent answer, very well articulated, and my personal favorite so far. For anybody who's interested, there's a lot in that answer to take away and sort of unpack. Thank you for that. We'll move to the next scenario in the hire or pass, because I have to bring it back to the hire or pass, even though there's a very interesting conversation to be had there. So the next scenario, Vineet, is the silent achiever. This is somebody who you as a recruiter can see has the skills, has the achievements, has the credentials, but they really struggle to articulate it at any point during the interview process. Or perhaps they even prefer not to take any of the credit. So for whatever reason, they're the silent achiever. They're not really good advocates for themselves. A hire or a pass or something else?
It depends on what's my need in that job. If I need just a worker who would be able to deliver on certain things as with the given scenario and the skill sets, it's a hire.
Okay.
But if the role is a high visibility role, if the role demands the person to not just do a great job, but also be able to tell a very good story and sell it well, then it could be a pass. Because it's important that what we do well, but it's equally important that how we create a narrative around how we do this in an organization or in any setup, to be able to share our story to the rest of the people. Not because you want to take credit for it. And I think that's a conditioning. That's a conditioning people have gone through. I don't think, when I share my story, it's not about to be in the limelight to get credit for what I've done. You never know who you're inspiring.
Exactly.
You never know who you're helping with that story. And they may find some relevance from their own life and relatability from their own life. Learn from how somebody has done something and pick that up and demonstrate and do it for themselves. So for that reason, I think storytelling is an important art and a skill.
And so the more and more senior you get, I'm assuming more and more roles are high visibility roles, and therefore it becomes very important to learn how to be a good advocate for your own work, your own journey.
That's a key leadership trait.
And any quick tips on how one can sort of start advocating for themselves and their journey and their experiences, somebody who's not been doing it so far?
The only tip that I will have is, if you answer this question in your own head, you'd be able to narrate a story very well. anything that you start doing, any project, any task that you are responsible for, what is the end in mind? If you know what is the end in mind, you would work towards it to solve, to reach to that end, right? When you do that, it's a story by itself. Yeah. So the start point is what is the problem that you're solving for?
Yep.
Yeah. The second part of it is what do you know of its current realities and challenges? The third part of it is how you solve it. And the fourth part is it how does that solve the larger issue or the problem that the organization was facing? If you understand these components, is storytelling a very difficult thing then?
Got it. So break it down, kind of have it's a very uniform structure that you can use for pretty much any story.
Yes.
Is what I gather. If I can just add to that, perhaps the why is also important. Why are you solving that problem at all?
Absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you, Vineet. The last question in this segment is the referee's concern. So this is a candidate who has sailed through the interview process. It's come time to do the reference checks, and the reference checks are mixed. There are some pretty positive ones, but there are also some pretty negative ones, or I would say, let's call it lukewarm references. Is that a hire or is that a pass?
I'd go by my judgment
Okay.
because experiences are your own. And I've had situations in my own sphere of work where I've been given, a reference about somebody. And in my own experience, that has not been true.
Okay.
Because somebody else had a different experience with that individual does not mean that the individual will have the same experience with me. Human beings are not made like this. Their ability to adapt, their ability to connect is different with different people. So I'd go by my experience than anybody else's experience. I remember once in my career, I was getting into a new area of work, and there was an existing person in the role, and what I was told is, good luck with this person. And that kind of could have possibly created a certain sense in my head about that person, because they probably had a certain experience of that person. But when I started to work with the person, I realized that the person was totally different in my experience. And we developed an absolute amazing connection right at the start. We could deliver something very useful and practical for the organization. We could work very effectively with each other. And I don't even remember when that thought as a background, it even totally disappeared from my head. And then I think about it in hindsight, that if I would have leaned on to that advice and created a preconceived notion about that individual, maybe I wouldn't have seen the profoundness of that individual and the relationship.
Okay, awesome. So from a candidate's point of view, one negative reference or one lukewarm reference, if you have other positive ones, is not the end of the world.
It's not the end of the world.
As long as you're true to your work and your journey, you should be fine. I'm guessing that's the takeaway.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. That's the end of the hire or pass. I had a lot of fun in that segment. And we'll move to the last one for today, which is a deep dive.
Okay.
Are we good to start?
Do we take a
Yeah, we can take a break.
water break?
Yeah, we can take a break. Pani de do.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm genuinely enjoying some of your answers.
Somebody the other day said to me, we don't get good responses from people in an exit interview. Because we don't have a robust process of exit interviews. And I said, I don't believe in it. And they said, why? I said, my take on this is that we do not have effective managers. They said, no, but they're very good people. I said, I'm not saying they're good or bad, but I'm saying that these managers don't have a connection with the person. I've had very large teams with me, very large part of my career. Even if they had an interview call from a company, they would first tell me.
Yep.
They've even come to me to say, can you do a little due diligence on this company? Should I go or not go?
Okay.
And that tells me that there's a connection issue,
Yep.
not the process issue. Of course, process, you ask them a question saying, why are you leaving? They'll give you professional reasons, personal reasons, better growth.
I think you're absolutely right. I think I've had the same experience. I do think it works a bit both ways in the sense that there's a bit of onus on
100%.
the person who's being managed as well to be sort of open to that relationship and that transparency and that exchange.
Yes. A lot of people are not willing, so.
Yep. Or they might be willing, but they have like preconceived notions about what it might lead to, fear around, is it going to work or not work?
Raghav, I know there will be few people who will be like aberrations. People who, no matter how much does a manager does a good job of building trust and equation, will not get in that, connection. But I've seen very little evidences of such situations. Most evidences that are seen is, and see, this is a reality of taking a role higher than just an individual contributor at any level. The minute you become a manager, you're managing those people because the definition is like that, right? When you're managing somebody, the ownership to a large extent lies with you to create an environment of psychological safety and build trust with people. I've hardly seen people who will not get along that way if you've done genuinely the job of building trust. Hoga kai baar, there will be one or two people who are no. They have a mental disconnect with the person and things like that, which is fine. But to a large extent, it won't happen.
I think it's also kind of a self-propagating problem or a self-fulfilling prophecy where managers train the next batch of managers, and if the manager themselves is not sort of the best at something like this, then the next batch is also not going to be good at something like this. So perhaps people in your function can help break this cycle of how to actually manage effectively.
Absolutely, and that's what we are doing. I mean, in fact, a few days back, I'd written an article in one of the magazine, People First HR magazine, on a very successful first-time manager program. And I've not written theory in that article. I've written practical things and business impact that the program has created. And those managers are significantly different than the rest of the group who's not been through the journey. So there is a way. If there's willingness, there is a way to transform those pieces as well.
I think that's one of the perks of being at a corporate. For example, somebody like me who's never been at a large company, never actually got this formal training. I kind of had to learn the hard way. But yeah, should we get back? So, what I record? We'll get back to the conversation. Okay, where were we? Okay. Thank you, Vineet, for that higher up our segment. I had a lot of fun doing it. I think there's a lot there to unpack as well for listeners today. We'll close today's conversation with a deep dive into your journey.
Sure.
Would love to learn from the experiences that you've had yourself and talk about the journey that you've been on, some of the specifics, and see what people can take away from that. Are we good to start?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. We need to start off this segment. What I found super interesting when I was preparing for this interview or this podcast was the fact that you started your career as a business development manager. And it wasn't a short stint either. It was like a 5-year plus stint. And only then you switched to HR. So just talk to us about that. What inspired the switch? How did you think about it? And how should, in general, people think about career switches today?
So interestingly, my wife till date says this to me that you should have been in sales. You're in a wrong profession.
Okay.
So that's how this started. The only interesting twist to the sales side, business development side of my start of the career was that I was creating people performance enhancement solutions.
Okay.
So I was closer to the L&D or the HR area, even though my role was to sell solutions to different organizations. I started enjoying a role like that, where my initial role was more of account management. So I was made to manage large accounts in the organization, businesses where we were serving some large customers. And initial few years, I did extremely well in maintaining, managing relationships with people, and hence helping the business grow, upselling and cross-selling in that ecosystem. At one point in time, my manager pushed me to the different side of business development, which is pure sales. So from a farming role to a hunting role. And when she had this conversation with me, I was very reluctant.
Okay.
And I said, why? Because, all my incentives are based on my performance, and I'm doing extremely well. I'm excelling year on year. I'm a star performer. Every year I'm on the incentive club and things like that. Why do you want me to let go all of this and the deep work that I've done, hand it over to someone and get into a absolutely fresh scheme of things? She said, because it's important that you learn the other side of the skill equally well. And we have no doubts that you won't. Hence, with the understanding, the deeper understanding of how client relationships work, probably you will equally apply those skills to client acquisition work. I was not very confident and comfortable, but because my manager showed so much trust in me to do that job, I took the switch. In less than a year, together as a team, we had built a pipeline of business far bigger than my previous role.
Okay.
And that helped me transition my career. So there was another S curve in that same organization, which helped me do something totally different. I did that for a couple of years. Is when we cracked a very big order, a very, very big sizable order that needed maniacal focus and deep responsibility. And that naturally shifted me to project manage that and program manage that. So the third role I did in the same organization, the third S curve, was the project and program management role. We were working with one of the larger media houses of India, and we actually were able to produce some breakthrough results, which will be edged in their statistics in the history of how we actually delivered on those areas. And that really helped me, do my career transition. I think what helped me do these transition was, one, the trust that my managers always had in me, the support they provided me to learn, the risk they were willing to take if I fail. A lot of times we talk about risks, and a lot of people you will hear, saying we're willing to, experiments and we are okay to take risks. But in real sense, are they able to appreciate and acknowledge risk? Do organizations and individuals celebrate risks and failures? The answer is no. Thankfully, I was fortunate in my career to get managers who were willing to celebrate failures. And that is how I learned, and that is how I could transition, 3 careers in one organization at one time.
And what was the motivation behind transitioning from what I understand was your final role in that particular organization was program managing that big project that you had? What motivated the transition from that to doing HR as your first job in your next organization?
So I'd seen trainers in my first organization. And in those years, the definition of trainers were people with significant experience, probably gray hair, to bring that wisdom and ability to help others succeed. So I had been mentored or coached by some of those trainers. And I was always very inspired by that role that they played to really help people. I think it was also the time, Raghav, when the purpose of my life was shaping up.
Yep.
And the why of helping or transforming or supporting people was getting bigger and bigger, deeper and deeper in my own way. And I thought this could be an inspiring way to work with people on their behaviors, to work with people on their life, and do something for them that creates an impact and a shift in who they are today. And that prompted this shift. And I was again fortunate to have none other than GE or JECIS as a platform. It's always been known for its DNA on the emphasis on learning. And I couldn't have been in a better place. And that motivated me to make a shift into that organization. Suddenly, I switched to manage the corporate learning function of the organization. And day in and day out, our job was to enable the organization get more effective and better on professional skills and create and build future professionals and leaders in the organization. And that mission just got me on.
Got it. In a way, the jump was adjacent because you had some experience with training programs and learning, and so you were able to make that switch from sales to HR, which is an entirely different field, might look like to some people. But because it was an adjacent jump, you had some experience of the subject matter itself, you were able to make it. So is that a good way that people can think about anybody who's maybe not fully satisfied in their current position or wants to explore something new? They should explore adjacent areas first?
I think adjacent areas gives you a little bit of an edge. Yeah, you don't start from the scratch. You're able to learn quickly and deliver results, and that's what most organizations are looking for. Yeah, but I would say that it should not become a showstopper. If you're deeply passionate about something else, then you must not give in to get an easy outcome. A lot of times in our careers, we give in to easy things. And that's where sometimes we get into another wrong transition and get stuck again. So if you really want to create a meaningful career for yourself, it's not necessary to take the easy route. It's to take the route that you're passionate about. Fortunately for me, that adjacent field was an area of passion. And hence my struggle was lesser in that space to really quickly shift my gear and the skills to support what was needed in that organization.
I'm really happy that that was your answer, because there's a certain coherence to this entire all the answers that you've had, which I'm really enjoying, and that continues to be the case. Very quick follow-up. Your wife thinks you made the wrong decision clearly because she thinks you should be in sales. Are you happy with the switch to HR? How have the last 15, 20 odd years been?
I think it's been very exciting. I'm truly, truly satisfied with what I'm doing. And she's not unhappy. I mean, it's more like she says, you have all the skills that is needed in a sales professional. And of course, the other element is that we laugh on it, and it's still a lighter conversation and not real in the market also. She says, oh, sales jobs are better paying jobs. But yeah, that's not the case. I think it's not the job, it's the role that you do. What makes the whole meaning and purpose. And I think I'm extremely satisfied and happy. I've had an extreme fortunate to have absolutely lovely bosses. And outside of the bosses arena, other senior colleagues who've been willing to mentor, willing to coach, and willing to go out of the way to help me. And put together, like some people ask me sometimes saying, tell me an instance or a situation when you've had a bad manager. And I kind of struggle, really struggle. And I'm fortunate that I struggle to give this answer, because not many people are fortunate on this area. People do struggle with their managers, but I've had some literally excellent people to work with, and that's shaped me who I am today.
Okay, love it. Excellent. Love the answer. The next question I have for you is you've spent 2.5 decades working, you've been at 4 excellent organizations. I'm sure you've seen different ways of doing talent acquisition, different approaches to talent acquisition, both at these 4 organizations specifically, as well as in general in your
Yeah.
network through your experiences. Can you talk a little bit about the different approaches to TA, as well as is there any particular style of talent acquisition that you prefer?
So I'll take you back to about 2.5 decades when I started. In a setup like that, it was a large learning consulting organization where we were hiring people for different roles and jobs. The method of hiring was through structured psychometric assessments
Okay.
where people would clear a certain threshold, and if they don't pass that threshold, that was a filtration done at the assessment stage. Then there were rounds of interviews that people would go through, and in those years, talent acquisition was neither easy for the organization nor easy for the candidates.
Okay.
It used to be extremely time consuming, a very, very long driven process, which used to create more frustration in people because there was less technology
Yep.
and ways to enable faster, quicker decisions. But we went through that phase, long drawn processes with very little outcomes. I mean, for one job, if there were, say, 100 profiles that would come in, through the filters, some 30 would go through interview process, and from the 30, maybe 1 or 2 get shortlisted to an offer stage. That was kind of long drawn processes. The search for candidates was extremely difficult because there were no platforms like Weekday, LinkedIn, and several other platforms. And hence, even to find the right people and have an engaging conversation with them used to take a lot of time. That shifted, times changed, and organizations evolved. In my second organization, the interview process had shortened literally by half,
Okay.
where there were assessments, but they were quicker. They were not necessarily a filter to reject people. They were a filter to assess people and their strengths and capabilities in a certain direction. They were not multiple interviews. They were 1 or 2 people speaking, one from a HR side or the recruitment side, and the other one from the business side. And that decision was made through that process.
Okay.
That, of course, made a lot of sense in that time. Is when I moved to my third organization, which was hiring at scale.
Okay.
Now, the minute you have to do it at scale and you have to hire very basic qualifications in people, your hiring processes totally
Yep.
change. So we did not have the luxury of several rounds of interview. We definitely did not have many options of assessments which were quick, affordable, to make the cut, to get something in from that. So we skipped the assessment in most cases. At certain levels, yes, but at a frontline executive level, we got through removing assessments as a process. It was purely the recruiter and the hiring manager trying to take a collective decision through very structured set of questions. This was also the time interviewing processes were evolving.
Okay.
From a normal judgment-based conversation to a behavior-based interview. Competency-based interviews or behavior-based interviews were coming into effect. But I think those were still prevalent to a large extent for mid to senior roles. For more junior roles, it was still a very, transactional question-based process leading to an outcome. But because we were hiring masses and at that scale it wasn't possible, we continue to do that system. While that organization has evolved today completely, they have a more tech-based, tech-enabled process in which there is a certain assessment, but it's a literally a few minutes of a process to give you a certain result. And now there are advanced techniques and AI techniques that are able to gauge a lot of competencies and skills in people before even they come to the table for a conversation. So conversations have become simpler, lesser in depth, and at more frontline level, and quicker to get you the results. Where I am currently, we have a mix or a balance of all of this. We do not hire at a scale, so it's important that we pay the full attention and the price to this process. Hence, we have very well trained recruiters who understand the business very well, and that's a shift that has happened even at the recruitment stage.
Yep.
A lot of time in the past, recruiters had no clue, or at least they were not 100% clear about what the organization does and why this role is necessary and what would this role play in the organization. Today, our recruiters are extremely clear about the business strategy, the purpose of the organization, and this role, and hence they are able to engage into meaningful dialogues right at the first stage of an entry. Today, we do a ratio of 70-30 or 60-40, which means 60 or 70 is done in-house, the sourcing is done in-house, but about 30 to 40% is outsourced to capable partners. But the brief is very strong. The role of job description has become extremely vital today, which in the initial period of time I saw was not so prevalent. They were there, but they were never the cheat sheet.
Yep.
The cheat sheet was a conversation and a decision. Sometimes I even know that job descriptions were not even written in many cases. When you were mass hiring, job description, you go and ask somebody, where was the job description? I've never seen one. So, but they were still hiring for the role. So those shifts have happened over these years. And I think we are only getting better. We're only getting more refined at the process. Times have reduced. People are not going through rigorous several rounds and have no visibility to the outcomes at each stage. Today, organizations have become so structured that they give you flexibility to do these interviews remotely. We're today at a stage where we're doing global hirings, and hence the boundary of location has completely vanished. The cultural differences have started to reduce because people are willing to learn and know about each other's culture, and hence be more acceptable and agile to lean into different cultural conversations very willingly, and that has created a lot of easy space for people to go through this. Today we use technology. We also use a certain aptitude assessment at the start, and it's of course a proper human interview. I think at some stage these things will also reduce and people will evolve to more tech-based hiring. I'm sure some parts of the world or some parts of businesses are still doing it, but we haven't still transitioned to a completely non-human method of hiring.
Got it. You mentioned having a 60-40 or a 70-30 ratio versus in terms of what is done in-house versus what's outsourced. I think one interesting question to ask here is, and this is an impression that a lot of people have, companies specifically, recruiters, that the quality of hiring is not necessarily the same when you compare what's done in-house versus what you outsource. And specifically concerns around cultural fit, how exactly do you assess things like that? Because when you're doing it in-house, your recruiter has complete context about the business, like you said, about what the team is exactly looking for. Sort of all the subjective as well as objective criteria are there with the recruiter. When you outsource, that may or may not be the case. So, in your experience, is there a difference, a tangible difference in terms of the quality of people you're able to hire in-house versus outsourced?
I don't think we are facing quality issues with our partners. They are briefed extremely well. They take keen interest in understanding the nature of the business and what are we hiring and why are we hiring for, and that enables them to hire probably at par with our internal teams. The challenge sometimes is that because it's a third organization or it's a second, different organization, and for them it's not just this company as a client. There are challenges around flexibility that we don't necessarily get every time. Sometimes you have to be extremely agile around how the process is going and how it's shifting, and those probably become a challenge why organizations keep a certain part of it in-house, but I don't think quality is an issue today. People are doing a fairly good job in getting us the right candidate. In fact, we are now doing very focused hiring in an outsourced way. For example, we're extremely conscious to work on our gender ratio in the organization.
Okay.
Yeah, and when we have to put a very strong focus, say on women hiring, especially in the tech space, we find it easier to work with the partner.
Yep.
Because they are able to produce so many candidates for us, who then we can screen in our own way and get through the doors, which we ourselves may take a little longer. We will do it,
Yep.
but it may take a little longer for us to do it. So that focused help is extremely useful to outsource to competent companies and people who know this and do this as their day job. So there is merit in kind of creating a certain balance, and I don't see quality challenges.
Very interesting. And another follow-up is, what is a framework or a criteria that you use to decide whether a role should be done in-house or outsourced? Is it a seniority thing? Is it a department function thing?
No, we haven't put any such strong, filters for it. Sometimes at a senior level, we need to go through a partner.
Okay.
Because sometimes it's not so easy to get several profiles for a senior role. I see the more mid-level hiring is still easy to handle in-house.
Okay.
Senior level hiring is useful to get from a partner, and a more frontline level hiring is when you have to hire at scale. It is an extremely helpful thing, because organizations are also conscious about how big their recruitment function or talent acquisition function could possibly be, because there is seasonality
Yep.
to the business always, and you can't just have a large team who's extremely active at certain parts of the year and has less to do at the rest of the year. So to manage this seasonality for our scalable hiring, it's important to have a balance with an external partner supporting you through that, and that's the approach we follow.
Got it. And is it the same roles then? From what I gather, you said there's no hard criteria in
There's no
terms
hard
of
criteria.
what role goes where. So it's basically the same roles that both the in-house teams as well as the vendors are working on, and whichever way you find a candidate, you find a candidate. Is that how it works?
No, if we have shared a requirement with a partner, then those roles only the partners focus on. Otherwise, it's the same pool, right? We will be tapping into the pool through our own methods,
Yep.
and they'll be tapping into the pool through their methods. We may just be, doing dual work. So it's simpler to say these are positions you hire.
Okay.
We wouldn't interfere here. We would only look at the quality of candidates you produce. But there are other roles that then we hire.
Okay. So from all of that, what I understand is it either comes down to trying to solve a sourcing problem, which is like when you say you're trying to improve the gender ratio or you're trying to hire senior people, it's a sourcing issue if you're doing it in-house. So that's when you go to a vendor, or when you're trying to solve a bandwidth problem.
Right.
These are two ways in which a job would be outsourced.
That's right.
Got it. Perfect. I think that's a very clear answer. So thank you for being candid there. I actually had a question on talent acquisition at senior levels. So there's a theory which says that the more TA that you have to do at senior levels, the more it reflects on poor succession planning in the organization. What is your take on this?
Very interesting. This has been a passionate area for me in the talent space of helping organizations build successes. But I don't know. I don't know if it's a black and white to this answer. To me, it's important for organizations to build successes. It's important for them to be seen as the next in line, which keeps their aspirations met and recognizes their contribution to the organization. And that's why succession planning is an important part of all organization. It keeps the knowledge intact. It does not have a restart on a lot of things. But I personally feel that there has to be a healthy balance
Okay.
of fresh ideas and thoughts, and not just succession. So I would say that there has to be a certain effort
Got
in
it.
talent acquisition at this more senior level also to bring in different fresher perspectives who can help organization transform in different ways. And there also needs to be progression and succession for people who are in the organization to find their aspirations within the organization. So we got to find a balance. There is no
Got it.
one answer to it.
But there has to be a sweet spot, given the answer you've just shared with us. There has to be a sweet spot. Any idea what that sweet spot is? Let's say there are 10 roles to be filled at a particular senior level in the next year. You have a sense of how many of those you would like to staff internally and how many you would like to bring external people in for?
I haven't thought over a distinction like this, but typically a 60-40 is a very decent thing. If 60% of people are able to succeed within the organization and 40% of the people are brought in outside as an external perspective, I think that balance could be
That's
a
a good
healthy
balance.
balance. Even when you place all of these into a talent framework to really see, I think this will play pretty well in identifying high potentials in an organization and successors and helping them move up
Yep.
the ladder through a certain journey, and at the same time use your bottom quartile to slowly exit the organization so that you create space for others to come in.
Got it. So for my next question, Vineet, we've been talking a lot about how your current organization works. I think we should take a pause and shed more light on what exactly it is that you do, what Colt Technologies does. So if you could just spend a couple of minutes describing what does Colt Technologies do, what is the current scale of the business, and what does your specific role entail?
Sure. So Colt has evolved as an organization from being a telecom organization to a teletech organization. And when I say this, we are one of the largest in the digital infrastructure space. So we create infrastructure that enables voice and data services to go from one place to another.
Okay.
We support very, very large brands across the globe for their data and voice services. It's a decent size organization. We are close to about 6,200 people across the globe, about 27 countries that we are present in. And my role specifically in the organization is to take care of the talent, performance, and early career segment.
Okay.
So these are three distinct yet extremely interconnected areas to deliver the organization's result on. When I say talent, this is about the whole talent management piece, which helps us identify the levers in an organization from where do we identify and hence develop our high potentials, build a very strong succession plan, and help the organization go in a certain trajectory.
Okay.
Now, when you do this meaningful piece of work, performance plays an integral part of the role, because your talent strategy and your performance strategy has to go hand in hand in order to deliver the result for the organization. And it depends where the organization wants to go. For example, at Colt, we're talking about being a high-performing organization, which means we will have to tackle a certain aspects of performance and a certain aspect of talent in a certain way, in an interconnected way. The third area is early careers. It's an important talent persona that helps us bring in a newer generation into this organization and build future leaders through this pipeline. And that's why this particular piece sits with this role. A lot of people sometimes get confused saying what's the connection, but this is the connection. So it's an important talent persona, and hence it has various dimensions. Early careers has various dimensions, but the reason why it's kind of sitting in this place is currently so that it's a strategic agenda of the organization. Commitment on it has come from our top leadership, and we want to really bring in this generation mix into the organization consciously, and that's why this kind of effort. So that's the role that I do in the organization.
Got
I
it.
also help on several learning and leadership development initiatives. And in the past, I've been leaning more on the leadership development side, and now I will be leaning more on the talent side with a new S curve in the
Yeah.
organization.
Okay, excellent. You mentioned total team size across the globe of 6,200. What, if I may ask, is the team size in India?
India will be approximately 1,800 plus
Okay.
people. We have Gurgaon and Bangalore as two locations.
Okay.
And it would be a split of about 60-40 or 65-35. Gurgaon is larger and Bangalore is slightly lesser in number. But these are the two places where we are in Gurgaon. And we're proud to have started as a shared service organization in India, but as a global capability center, we have moved at a very high pace to become a global capability center where a lot of strategic, important functions and areas are independently managed from India for the entire organization.
Okay, very interesting. I think that also reflects in the strength of the team in India. It's almost a third of the entire organization, which in fact is spread across 22 or 27 countries. 27 countries.
Yeah.
So India is a fairly large center.
Fairly large center.
For people that might be interested in exploring a career with coal technologies, I would love to understand. I think we've got a lot on what coal technologies can offer. So I don't think we necessarily need to sell a career at coal technologies to our audience. I think there'll be a lot of takers anyway. But I would like to sort of chart a pathway for somebody who might be interested. I would like to shed more light on what that pathway looks like. So if we can do that by demystifying hiring at coal technologies a little bit, and maybe we can do that with an example of any recent role you closed. So you already shared that 60-40 or 70-30 is the ratio in terms of how you source candidates and where you get the profiles from. Once the profiles are in the door, what can one resume in that pile of resumes do to stand out and improve their chances?
I think resumes have become a statement of fashion today.
Okay.
Technology and AI is telling us that when those resumes are put through, scan on those engines, they sometimes miss out on a lot of important areas and highlights in their resume because it's more fancy than simple. And hence, my first key advice to people will be to keep their resumes simple.
Okay.
Yeah. When I say simple, it does not mean do a bad formatting and put wrong language there. But what it means is that use of too much fancy templates and colors is probably not necessarily the highlight because it goes through the engine and sometimes some of the things are missed through that. So a very simple, practical resume is always more helpful. Once that resume is picked up and you get it to the stage of a conversation, to stay extremely authentic and share your aspirations of careers very openly with the recruiter is what helps the recruiter really understand your level of commitment and willingness to take this journey on. From there, when we bring people in, we are absolutely transparent in telling them what do we have to offer. So we've announced ourselves to be a flexible first organization. We have a flexible first policy, which essentially means that people can choose to work from wherever they wish to.
Okay.
And that is a huge advantage to a lot of people. Yeah. As an organization, we do not judge candidates from a break in their careers, for returning mothers, or for returning women who, for certain reasons and life situations, have had left their careers and now they're ready to come back. We are also not judgmental about hiring people who are at the impact of restructuring in other organizations. Yeah. And this mindset, I think, progressively most companies should start to change. Yeah. I checked this with one of my manager in the past, and we were hiring for a role. And I said, I can hear a lot of shedding in the market. A lot of organizations are letting go of their people. So what do you think about picking resources from there? And the answer that I got was, absolutely, go tap them. because they'll be quick to join, they'll have the lead, they'll have the commitment, and if we would have been able to support them in their career journey, maybe we will get a longer commitment from them. So that's the mindset of the organization, and that's a significantly open and progressive mindset that the organization has displayed. So we don't filter people on these lenses. What we look for in both technical and non-technical roles, and I think a very large number of our roles are technical in nature. We want to encourage women to come forward in technical roles. It's no rocket science, and we are doing our best to explain that to our existing set of women as well. A lot of women in the organization today, we're also offering them a program that enables them on tech skills. Of course, they have to be willing to, there's no push for them. But a lot of times, they don't go to the side of tech roles because they think it's going to be difficult. It is not. Technology has only made things easy, and it's no rocket science that no one can learn. So we're enabling people through that journey, and we are committed to a diverse, gender, balanced organization, and we have very progressive targets on that area, not just for our own sake, but these are targets committed to the board of the organization. So they're as important as our P&L numbers.
Got it. It's great that you have these targets. What's even better is the fact that you're transparent about it, because a lot of organizations are not. Very quickly, back to actionable tips for candidates who are interested in Colt. You gave one excellent tip, which is keep your resume simple. So that you have a better opportunity of being picked up by the ATS. Let's say you are picked up by the ATS, you followed this tip given by Vineet, and you have a good resume that's shortlisted. Of course, it's a strong resume anyway. And you get a call from a recruiter. Quick actionable tips on what candidates can do to navigate anxiety around the call and perform well on that call?
I think the first and the foremost thing is for the candidates to prepare themselves. Read the job descriptions properly. Look at the nuances of the job descriptions. Pick the keywords. And in your conversation, in your preparations, and then eventually in your conversations, highlight to the recruiter of how you are enabling that job that's written in the description there. The minute you are able to explain how you would be able to support the larger organizational agenda and that job, you have higher chances to go through the next round. The other thing is, a lot of people do not do effective research on the organization before getting into an interview process. My advice will be, know a little more about the organization. Everything that you should know is available on the internet today. There were times we had no such information. But do your research, understand what the organization does. Through that, be able to understand how this role or this job can contribute to the organization's goal or the strategy. And if you're able to articulate that value that you will drive in the organization, I think your chances are very bright.
Okay, excellent. I think it's another lovely tip you gave, which is taking keywords. So everybody takes keywords these days and puts them in their resume so that the ATS can shortlist them. But also, from what I can gather, during your intro calls and your subsequent interviews, the recruiters eventually are also trying to hire against that JD. So if you can refer back to the JD during your intro call and during your interview, that's a big strength, right? And it would help you set yourself apart from just an average candidate.
Sometimes people's answers are long-winded. And they lose the question or they lose to close loop what was needed from the question. So it's important to be very watchful of not giving a long-winded answer. Give a more focused, objective answer. Close loop on what has been asked for. And if time permits, you can of course say more. But that closure sometimes is helpful for a recruiter to really get what they're looking for. And anything else or anything more is a bonus.
Okay, excellent. One last tip I will ask you for is for a candidate who is submitted the resume, gone through the interviews, done well, and now it's time to negotiate. I know there's a slight conflict of interest here, but any tips for candidates in general on negotiating a job offer?
So a general tip on negotiation will be that, first of all, you must have a little sense on the market
Okay.
yourself. Through that, basis your skills and the role, you should have done a little bit of your own self-assessment. A lot of times we have people who come and just put a random number to an expectation. I think it's not that simple. Yeah. It's okay. I'm not against people putting their aspirations forward. It's absolutely fine. But if your aspiration and a number is backed by a little bit of research, it helps the recruiter and the organization to understand where you're coming from. So it's not always that there are certain budgets for each role. Yeah. But if we get more intelligent candidates in the process who have done a research-based assessment on what's the market offering like, sometimes at the back end we go and revise our own thinking. Okay. Because maybe we haven't done enough research, or we haven't put the right thing on the table. So it helps both ways.
Does that really happen, Vineet? Like
It does happen.
you do go back and revise your budgets?
It does happen.
Okay.
A lot of times I've received this feedback from the recruitment team saying that we're not able to get good candidates of the kind of expectations you have at this price point. What's the leeway that you have?
Got it.
And if we really have a resume that meets all criteria, the flexibility, and if the business has the flexibility, we do offer that flexibility. So we do go and change something.
As long as it's, like you said, backed by some sort of evidence or data that the candidate, and if the candidate comes up with that data, even better.
And it should not also create a parity, inside the organization. That's something that we're extremely conscious of.
Got it.
That while in any organization in its growth stage, you would know that there are a lot of pay parities, right? But once you start becoming conscious about your growth, we aggressively work on getting rid of those parities as much as possible. So through this process, we also don't want to create unnecessary variations that will take us many years to solve. But when it's genuine and the shift is needed, we do make that shift.
Got it. Perfect. I'm just going to sum all of this up. Please correct me if I'm wrong, or please add on if I've missed out anything. But for anybody who's interested in working at Colt Technologies, first up, everybody should be applying. If you're interested, do apply, especially if you're from a disadvantaged, traditionally disadvantaged segment of job seekers. Let's say you're a returning mother or some such segment. Please do apply to Colt, because it's a progressive organization that will hire you. Then make your resume as simple and straightforward as possible. Beyond that, do your research. Once you get through the ATS and you get a call and you're in the interview process, do your research. Use your answers to tie back to the objective of the role and the JD. And then once you crack all of that and it's time to negotiate, come with data. Be realistic about what you can get, and that's how you get a job at Colt.
Absolutely, you summarized it really well.
Okay, excellent. We'll wrap here, but before we wrap, Vineet, I have just one last question to ask you. Anything that you may have missed through all of these questions, I would like you to give advice on two fronts. One, to early career people who are getting into HR, and one to people who are not in HR but just generally early or in the middle of their career. Just two pieces of advice, and something that ideally you have not said so far in the podcast.
Okay, so I think to people early in their careers, it's important to really chart out what you intend to do in your life. Be open to new organizations and new roles. Do your assessment of your own skills. See where you belong. And if you're able to really fill that gap of where you belong and what the company really needs, you've had a great start. The other thing is that we've started to look at swiggly careers now. So it's not a straightforward, linear path that people used to manage. The templates have been broken. We lived our lives on a template. At this age, we will go through education. At this age, we will go through jobs. At this age, we'll go through marriage. At this age, we'll do ABC. But those templates have been broken by this generation. And I think it's a very, very significant shift in the landscape. So capitalize on that. Find your purpose quickly into an organization and see if you belong there. If no, switch quicker. And be in a place that really helps you, meet your mission or meet your goals. I was surprised that we were talking to our early career team a year and a half back, because they were recruited through the whole pandemic period. I asked them, saying, you must be feeling disengaged because you've joined virtually and have lived virtually. And they said, no. And I'm like, no? They said, yeah, as long as there's clear purpose to our work and we are contributing to our role, we don't feel disconnected. I said, which companies would you like to work for? And I was surprised and extremely delighted to hear from early careers is, they said, we want to work for organizations who give back to the environment. I think that's a very, very important thing. To become that conscious at that stage is extremely needed. And if this generation does not get that right, we are headed to a ecological disaster. So it's very important for the for careers to be not just focused on earning money, but to be equally focused on how do we sustain on this planet. Otherwise, we're headed towards a disaster that's inevitable.
An advice for somebody considering a career in HR or in the middle of a career in HR?
I think it's a very passionate area. If you do HR, and we've stopped calling it HR, by the way. And I'll tell you a reason why. When you say resource as a definition, you exactly know what it is capable of and what it is not. But human beings are capable of things that you don't even know. So human being is a possibility, not a resource. And hence, we should first of all stop calling this function as human resources. You would have seen many organizations have already made a shift. Like in our organization, it's not called as HR function. It's called as people and culture function. Because people are people, and people are full of possibilities. I also know of my spiritual foundation, where the function is called as HP, which is Human Possibility Department. So that's a big shift. And I learned this very early in my career when I started to shift to HR, that if you want to do HR or people, and culture as a job, it wouldn't be very exciting.
Got it. So
it has to be a passion.
Got it. So only get into it if you're passionate about it, or otherwise, get into it and explore.
Yes.
But continue if you're passionate about it.
There are several career options today, so it's not the only thing. But if you're deeply passionate about being in this role, making a difference to the organization and to people, then this is the space for you.
Perfect. Excellent. That's lovely advice. And I think with that, we'll close. Before we do that, I must thank you for taking out the time today. I really, really genuinely enjoyed the conversation, which I told you at multiple points during the conversation as well. But thank you, Vineet, for being so generous with your time, with your insights, and being so candid. Very few people are actually open to doing something like this. So really thank you. And I'm really excited for this episode to go out. I'm really excited for people to watch it, because I'm sure there's a lot to unpack and a lot to learn from what we've just spoken about.
Thank you, Raghav. I think it's been a very interesting conversation. Through the conversations and many a times through the answers, you tend to also reflect on your own journey in many, many ways. And that's been an opportunity to reflect on my own journey and what we do. So it's definitely helpful both ways, not just one way. So thank you so much for having me here.
Excellent. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Vineet, for coming on the show. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Genuinely, I enjoyed it. I think we overshot our time quite a lot. कितना time चला recording?
1.5 घंटा 1.5